Gather round. It's time for your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group. Listen closely as your coaches discuss the culture, the economy, and the political scene, and how it affects your home and your real estate investments. Real Estate Chalk Talk is where you learn the science of buying and selling real estate and the art of living in your home. Your education begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey there, welcome to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group, hittnergroup.com, Hittner Group.com, 612-627-8000. That's 612-627-8000. Give us a ring-a-ling-a-ling. Be happy to have a chat with you about your real estate needs. And, of course, that call is with no cost and absolutely no obligation. Okay, we're at the mid-year slump. We have, I got some really interesting stuff here. I don't even know where to begin. It's so interesting.
Let's go.
Okay, so halfway through the season, listings year-to-date through we've got the numbers now through the end of June. Year-to-date through the end of June, just about dead even with last year. About 29,000 listings taken this year. So not down, but not up for sure. This week, our inventory for the week, 7-county metropolitan area, active listings 7,200. A year ago, it was 6,600, so we're up about 600 in some listings, 9.2% increase for the year. Not bad. New pending sales this last week is running actually down, of course, 4th of July, so you would expect it to be down. Days on market now is running about 30 days on the market. We've got about 2.5 months of inventory, so if nothing sells in 2.5 months, we'll have nothing to sell if nothing gets listed again. So that is all kind of just as steady as it can be. The economy is good. The interest rates seem to have stabilized, but now I got these stats here from the Minnesota Association of Realtors. I thought it was just really interesting. Keith Areno.
Listening.
Look at the curve. The curve showing daily showing activity. And 4th of July, of course, it's just like a dip. What's interesting is, even if you look back, I've got a chart here that shows from 2019 to 25. You can't see it on the radio. Maybe if you look at the speaker, you can see it. But if you look at this curve, then this week that we're in right now is one of the busiest showing weeks of the year, right after the 4th. Interesting. And then it just kind of dives from there on.
Is this last year's numbers or
this
what?
This is 2019, 20, 21, 25. But you see how they all track, they look exactly the same.
Very similar.
The volumes are different because obviously in 20 and 21 there was a lot of activity with 3% interest rates, but the curve is exactly the same. Interesting.
So peak time of year, people are looking at houses.
Well, right now you've got people who are looking towards new homes and new school districts.
Yeah.
So they're looking now, and they're going to be looking for the next couple of months so they get locked into their schools. So if you've got that family home, that four up 2-story, traditional home with a lot of bedrooms, a lot of bathrooms that you want to move, now is the time. Get it on the market because there are people who meet that criteria that are looking.
Need to move before school starts.
That's right. Here's what's interesting: showing activity by price range. So we've got compared this year to last year. The most, Keith, what do you think the most highly shown price range is?
I would say between $350 and $450. I don't know what your price ranges are.
You're right on. $300 to $399 is the most shown price range. 4,100 showings so far this year in that price range, up from 3,900 last year. So actually the looking at activity is higher than a year ago. In fact, in every category it's higher except for the 200 and under, and that's because
naturally there's not available.
Because there aren't any. But what's even the million plus is up about 100 showings, 17% increase. That's interesting. And now the overall percentage of homes that are shown, so that 300, again, that 300 to 400, we're looking at about 40% of all showings are in the $300,000 to $500,000 price range. And then the other 60% are spread across.
Yeah, that's definitely the meat of the market right
Yeah.
there. And it's around the median sales price.
It is.
Yep.
It is right in the median sale price. But all the 600 to 700, the 800 to a million, the million plus, all are up. They're all up in terms of showing. So there's activity out there. In spite of all interest rates and all the claims of the interest rate, how it's killed the market and all that, it really hasn't. I mean,
well, it's definitely changed things a lot. A lot of the national news is discussing what delisting activity.
Yeah.
I think is the term that's being used. So if you're listening to the radio or watching the news at all on a national level, and they start talking about the market environment, stock market, that type of market, the interest rate market, and then the housing market itself. Obviously, the housing market has a giant impact on the overall economy, and it's certainly changed over the last couple of years and a lot this year too. Delistings in the United States overall, your hot areas like Florida, Southern California, Phoenix. What I was reading and listening to this past week was, I think it's like for every home that's listed, 30 come off the market.
Really?
And so they're discussing why that delisting activity is happening. In our area, it's not that way.
No.
So they have a scale, and it's up to 30%. And Phoenix and those other areas I discussed are at the high end of that. So a lot of homes are coming off the market. A lot of people are sitting on some nice equity.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sellers can be more patient. They don't have to necessarily do price reductions. I mean, there are price reductions happening, but
that's kind of waned off in our market.
It has, and the reason why they say that is because people are sitting on equity. They have good interest rates too. They don't necessarily, quote, have to sell the property right now. So there's kind of this stalemate between, is it a buyer's market, is it a seller's market, especially in these areas where there are a lot of houses coming off the market. That's the speculation as to why, when you look at the data, people are sitting on, 2.99, 3.5% interest rates. They have a grip equity in their property, and they don't necessarily need to give that away right now. In our area, we're seeing some price reductions. We're seeing seller concessions. We're seeing builders incentivize and working with the real estate community heavily to try to sell homes.
Attract a buyer.
Yeah.
I was looking for a couple all over the metro area just a couple of weeks ago, and we went through 3 purchase agreements and then finally ended up going just to new construction because their preferences were driving me there. So we just ended up going to new construction. This was a cash purchase. They weren't taking out a mortgage. So they were very flexible in what they could do. And a lot of the existing properties that we were looking at had multiple offer situations on them and some not. But the builders, so I reached out to maybe 3 or 4 builders, point of where I'm going. I reached out to maybe 3 or 4 builders. We ended up going with one specifically, but since then, it's been 2 weeks now, maybe 3. I'm still getting calls from these builders saying, "Are you still out there?
Yeah.
Can you come back?
Yep.
Do you have anybody else?" And talking about their incentives and all these things that they're trying to move properties right now.
So what you've just described to me is a balanced market.
Yeah, it is pretty balanced.
It's a very balanced market.
And this price point was what, $350 to $450.
Yeah. So you've got sellers who are giving concessions and being flexible and actively pursuing and trying to sell a property, and buyers who are being, I like your thing, but I need this, and there's concessions and negotiation going on there. So that both parties, come together, and it isn't one party dictating to the other of what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And that's by
You're still
definition.
seeing quite a few multiples though in that 350
Oh yeah,
for sure.
to 450 range.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. And you see a lot of them kind of sitting there too. You see a lot of properties in that price point with a lot of days on market. So you know that there's something going on with that address.
Right.
It's a condition or location or something.
Case in point, I'm in Woodbury shopping for a property between $575 and $650. We go into this house, beautiful house, $650. I think it's right at the top of our budget. $650. This thing is super nice, and it's recently been on the market, not too long. But I'm like, this should have multiple offers.
Mm-hmm.
We walk into the mechanical room, and the whole mechanical room floor is plywood. And I'm like, why is the floor plywood?
Wood
Weird.
foundation.
It's a wood foundation.
Yeah.
So this thing is beautiful, and it was built in 2000
which is
2005.
There's nothing wrong with a wood
Beautiful
foundation.
home, but it's different.
It's different.
It's different. And so here this home sits. I just got an email this week, $25,000 price reduction.
Yep.
Nobody wants to mess with a wood foundation.
Right.
So there's all kinds of information you could find online. Google it. Wood foundations, the structural integrity of them, and versus poured and concrete block foundations. Take a look for yourself, but it's different, and so since it's different, there it sits on the market. Beautiful home in Woodbury with a wood foundation. If you want to see it, give me a call. 612
Somebody will get a deal on it.
627-8000. That number is 612-627-8000, or you can log on to our website, hittnergroup.com. That's HITTNER group.com, and we'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back to the program. Your Real Estate Chalk Talk, the big money segment of the program. Jared Hanowski in the studio, going to give us the update on rates.
How we doing today?
Super duper. How are you doing?
Good, good.
All right, rates are down to 4.5.
Just snuck into the fours.
They did just sneak in the fours. Good, with a little buy down.
Right.
7.4, I mean.
Yeah, 7.4. No, rates have been pretty steady, kind of in the same range. There's some misconception in the marketplace. I've got some calls this week that rates have came down. But generally, I mean, you're anywhere in the mid-6s, low 7s, depending on the scenario. If you wanted to buy an interest rate down, obviously you could get a little bit lower, but that's the range that we've been in for quite some time now.
And you're talking the same thing. What about like FHA or VA? Same?
FHA, you can maybe get a little bit lower, low 6s. You can maybe sneak into the 5s with a buy down, but generally, so we'll call it 6 to 7%. There's some products out there where you can buy the interest rate down for a year or two and, prepay the interest. So if you have some seller paid concessions, you could maybe do that to ease the housing payment for the first couple of years. I know Kelvin likes that product. He's done it a couple times, the 1-0 buy down or 2-1 buy down. That's where the interest is prepaid either by the buyer or the seller for the first year or two, and that'll lower the payment. But generally, interest rates are in the mid-6s is what I tell people.
Any appetite in the market for ARMs yet?
A little bit, maybe on your higher conventional stuff. We do have some outlets for some little bit better pricing on the ARM products, a 5-year ARM. So that's going to be fixed for 5 years. Then after that, it can adjust based to the caps on the mortgage product. So generally, people take those out. They plan on refinancing down the loan. So a 5 and a 7-year ARM might get you a little bit lower of an interest rate on a 30. It's a 30-year amortization, sure, but it's a 5-year reset.
Fixed for 5 years.
I'm still hanging on to an ARM on an investment property that I have.
Yeah,
and the rate just dropped on that.
It
just sets every September, I think, and my mortgage is paid up a couple months in advance. I just got the notice, dropped a full point. So
nice.
Happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people are spooked sometimes by ARMs because, in 2008 or the crash, there was all those goofy mortgages where people's interest rates skyrocketed on them, and the housing payment went way up, so their affordability went down and people lost their houses. But for the right client, it can be the right product. Might lower the payment, but the spread in between an ARM and a fixed rate, isn't that great where it makes sense a lot of times. So most people do take out fixed rate financing.
What do you mean it makes sense? If you have a lower rate for 7 years,
yep,
there's a pretty good chance that sometime during that 7-year period, there's going to be a window there that you can refinance and lock into a lower interest rate.
Right. I guess it just depends on the client's appetite for risk. Sometimes people are a little, spooked that they won't be able to refinance and the adjustable rate is going to go up on them. But like Keith just said, sometimes
goes the other way.
Yeah, depending on what the caps are on the adjustments. So,
I have we've been talking the last segment. We were talking about trends and the showing activity and stuff. I've got another chart here that I'm looking at that shows the relationship between showing activity and interest rates.
Okay.
And it is really, you don't realize what an impact it has when interest rates go up. the showing activity goes down. I mean,
Right.
it just dives. And when interest rates go down, the showing activity goes up. I mean, there's a definite correlation between that. So people are very sensitive to payment
Right.
because of the impact on, and they don't just sometimes if they have to move, they'll just go to a lower price point because they
Yep.
got to keep their payment the same. So it's like, oh man, I wanted to buy that house, but now I can't, but I need to buy a house.
Right.
So we're going to buy one that's less expensive because it's more affordable. But the showing activity itself, just the looking at, which is what we're talking about here, is really connected to interest rates.
Yeah.
So it's like psychologically, they hear that rates are down, people go out and look just to see what they're going to get,
Right.
and it's pretty interesting.
And I think, when interest rates do come down, if they do come down, I mean, this is what I tell a lot of clients that, want to wait, and they can do that if they like. But if, when interest rates come down, that's just going to put more buyers in the market. It's going to be more competitive, and that's going to drive prices up.
Yeah, and as it correlates to our conversation in the last segment regarding delistings, with listing inventory is increasing. But when people start pulling their houses off the market because they're not selling, and then rates do dip, and people come back in the market, there's less inventory available, and you're going to have more competition for that same type of house.
Right.
And so that will then bring the values even back up, because people are getting to a point in their price reductions or whatever where they're just saying, I'm just going to take it off the market. I'm not going to sell it right now.
Right.
Because it's a challenging environment for me to go purchase something too, and justifying the higher payments and all that, they end up just taking their house off the market and staying put.
It always makes me wonder on people, if you take your house off the market, or if you get pre-approved for a mortgage and you start looking for houses. Some people even get under contract, and then they don't end up closing, or something gets canceled, and they just kind of stop the whole process, or they don't sell. So it's like, me, if I'm going to buy a house, it's, and I think a lot of people, like, it has to happen, right? Like, you have your mind made up, but I guess there's different scenarios for everybody out there.
Yeah.
And with higher interest rates, obviously, sometimes that'll defer people.
Yeah, and those decisions are a little bit slower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they're moving not necessarily because they have to. It's more because they would like to get a little more space or do something based on what their family situation is. And then when they get right into it, they see what the numbers are.
Yeah.
And it's just like, something, we could do this, but we're so strapped now, and they just don't want to be like that. And
Right.
I have clients right now that you're in a particular school district, your kids are all going to school there, your kids are playing sports, you're living your life, and you're fine in the house you're in, but you really do need more space.
Yeah.
And the inventory is a challenge on the other side.
Yeah.
So you're in a price point where you can be picky. You're looking for something specific. You're going to spend $1 million or $1.2 million or $900,000 on your next house that you're going to be in for the next probably 25 years. It's not a forced situation.
Right.
And there are people out there, I have folks I'm working with right now, and it's just like, it's summertime, the kids are doing their sports, and we're not seeing it.
Yeah, there's just nothing there for them.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
So
they
there
can
they
be
sit.
picky, right?
And
So
they can be picky.
especially when they.
And it's not like they're saying we won't move or we're not going to move anymore. It's just we have nowhere to go.
Yeah. And building is not an option.
In some communities, it's just not an option.
It's just not an option. There's just no new construction in
Right.
that school district, in that area. And
Right. And then the want for new construction too. Like, do I want it? There. First of all, there aren't developments in that particular community that are being put up. But when you buy a new home versus buying something that is beautiful and mature, it's different.
Right.
You're getting a house with one tree,
Right.
and light landscaping and all this stuff. And like, do you want to spend that kind of money to live in a neighborhood like that? And a lot of people do, but some people don't.
And a lot of people, we just sold a house last week, and they have same thing. Cash buyer has the option to do anything they want. And we talked about new construction. Actually looked at some, and it's like, we don't want to go through the process of new construction. We just we just don't want to do that. We got our life is other stuff. We don't want to spend the next 6 months doing this now. Let's just go find a house.
You got to do the deck. You got to do the basement, the landscaping.
Get some blinds in the house.
Get some blinds. That's my wife bought those the first day.
Yeah, good.
But I want to say one thing. One of the most popular products that we're doing now for a lot of our first-time home buyers at Loan Depot, we have it helps. We have a up to 2% of the purchase price, capped at $3,000, but it's a $3,000 grant for first-time home buyers. So we're doing a ton of those that will help clients. It's better than nothing.
Yeah,
so
it is.
It's 3% down on the mortgage or 5% if the client wants to do it, and Loan Depot will kick in $3,000 towards that down payment.
Nice.
Talk a little bit, if you can, just about the impact that on mortgage rates when we hear about the Fed. Is the Fed going to change, drop a point or change rates or change? Does the Fed really have an impact?
Well, they do it's not a direct correlation, but when they drop interest rates, generally like the 10-year Treasury bond might follow. That's probably the best indicator to watch out there is the 10-year Treasury bond. But no, they don't directly impact mortgage interest rates. Those are, mortgage interest rates are calculated based off mortgage-backed security and the bond market. But I guess an indirect correlation, if they do lower interest rates, depends what Wall Street does. Everything depends kind of how the bond market does and what's going on there. That will affect mortgage interest rates.
So the mortgage, okay, so that's it's kind of a backdoor impact really on what's going to result in other activity.
Yeah. Well, we need to see, like this morning again, payroll information was good. So they say the labor market's good. So unfortunately, for mortgage interest rates to go lower, we kind of need some bad news in the economy. Is what drives mortgage interest rates, which, we want to have a healthy economy, but we also want to have good interest rates. So
I don't think we're going to see any bad economic news for a while because everything seems to be going in a positive direction. And I think the rates that we have are actually, they're affordable, they're historically normal, and, people are fully employed.
We just got spoiled there for about, quite a few years with interest rates below, 5%.
Jared, Loan Depot, give us your contact information.
Loan Depot, 612-432-2252. We'd love to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, give them a call. This is Real Estate Chalk Talk. We're going to head out. Log on to our website, hittnergroup.com, HITTNER group.com, and we'll be right back.